Succeeding with specialty crop contracts. That's what we're talking about. Is it time for you to put a specialty crop onto your farm to diversify your revenue, diversify your risk, and change things up in what might be a downward ag economy? That's the discussion in this episode of Extreme Ag's Cutting the Curve.
It's Extreme Ag's Cutting the Curve podcast, cutting your learning curve and improving your farming operation every week. This episode of the Cutting the Curve podcast is powered by Nature's BioK technology, delivering enhanced nutrient cycling, greater plant health, and elevated stress mitigation, leading to increased crop yields. Visit natures.com. And now, let's get ready to learn with your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of Extreme Ag's Cutting the Curve. We've got a great one for you today. We've got Texas Todd Kimbrell. He is an Extreme Ag guy, brought into the group by our good friend Matt Miles, and he's about an hour south of Dallas, farming down there. He farms in an area that at first you'd say, is it arid down there? No, it's not arid at all. We did another episode with Todd where we talked about how he almost lost a crop to drought during the wettest year on record. So he's got some really interesting farming conditions. He's in Hillsboro, Texas. Like I said, roughly an hour, 75 miles south of the Dallas Metroplex. We're talking now about specialty crop contracts. Todd farms quite a bit of ground and is always looking at opportunities to keep his guys going, to keep his farm operating, to keep everything in the black in terms of the revenue and the cash, positive cash flow, if you will. And so he's doing about 1,500 acres of sesame. And I said, we should really talk about this because if we're in a situation where soybeans, wheat, corn are close to break even, or maybe even you're just not making any money, what do you have to lose? If you were ringing the bell and you were making $300-400 net, like we maybe did a few years ago on your main staple commodities, why go ahead and, why mess up the monkey? Why throw a monkey wrench in it? But in this regard, if you're talking about maybe you're just struggling to break even, why not look at something different? So you're trying 1,500 acres, roughly that's 15% of your cropland acres that you're going to put into sesame. What was behind the decision?
Well, Damien, when farm economies are tough, which they are really tough, and in my opinion, it's probably as tough as it's been for my generation of farmer. I'm about to be 42, and I think things are probably as tight as we've ever seen them, or people my age anyway.
Yeah.
My thing is you got to think outside the box to make all this stuff work. And I mean, what's the definition of insanity?
Right. You keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Right.
And so the one thing, we're amazing in agriculture. We're good at production. But at some point you got to say, and I grew up on a dairy farm, same thing. In the 80s, we were glutted with milk. That's when they were doing the free cheese program in the early mid 80s because we had so much milk. And so what's the dairy farmer do? Man, I'm hardly making any money. I got to squeeze as much milk out of that Holstein as I can. Oh, hey, wait, milk prices are good. I've never sold milk for this much. I got to squeeze as much milk out of that Holstein. The answer is always the same to a farmer. I got to squeeze as much milk out of that cow as I can, figuratively, whether it's whether it's a wheat field or whatever. If things are tight, I got to squeeze as much out as I can because I'm barely getting by. Oh my God, these margins are amazing. I've never made this much money. I got to squeeze as much out of that cow as I can. The answer is always the same. And at some point, as you say, am I insane? Why do I continue to do the same thing, hoping for a different result?
Yeah, we found ourselves in a heavy corn, corn on corn rotation, and wheat tends to work pretty good down here, winter wheat, and so we all know the wheat board price. I mean, if you compare it to corn, it just doesn't work. So I just got to thinking we got to do something different to squeeze a little more milk out of this wheat, so to speak. So what can we do? We can't plant beans. We've all tried it. It gets too hot in the summer. So I was kind of looking for something that could handle the heat and the drought, and mostly the heat more than anything here, and kind of came back to sesame. I tried it, I think it was 2010 or 2009. We tried it behind some wheat that froze out, and we baled the wheat and planted some in there. But we didn't know what we were doing. We were drilling it. We didn't get a stand. We didn't know how to spray. We had no idea what we were doing. The technology's come along. We know how to plant it. We're going to plant it with a row crop planter. I think we know how to take care of it. They tell me their seeds improve drastically. So we're going to try something different to squeeze a few more dollars out of this wheat that just is not profitable.
So here's the thing. You just said that. All right, your main commodities, wheat works well where you are. Okay, you can squeeze a few dollars. You can change up your system. You can do a lot of things. But in this case, you're going to put in a significant amount of sesame. You've got very little experience with this. First off, you said there's a reason to go ahead and experiment with something different. Why'd you choose sesame?
Just because of the heat tolerant for us, everything I hear and know that there's a lot more of it grown in South Texas, which is quite a bit warmer and drier usually. And they're getting along good with it. And those guys have come a long ways with it. So I just, something that can handle the heat and a long dry spell. So when we're shelling corn, we'll start. Nowadays we start mid-July, really into July. I mean, it's 105, so we got to have some crop that can weather that heat, to get past that heat wave when we're harvesting corn. It gets so hot down here.
Okay, so first off, I want to talk about sesame as a crop, and then the climate and the reasons why it works for you. But the other part of it is, I'm in Northeast Indiana at my farm. I've never seen sesame except for on a cheeseburger bun. I don't know that much about it. I can tell you that even if I could grow it here, which I'm guessing I could, but probably not very well, or maybe I couldn't at all, I have no idea where I'd go with it. There must be infrastructure nearby. If it's being grown in South Texas, that's not that far from you. Where does this go? Why is sesame even in Texas? There's a plant there.
From my understanding, the oil is a big deal with it for cooking oil, but I don't know anymore. But back the first time we planted it, I know they were telling us McDonald's was their number one customer. I don't know if they still are. I would assume maybe so, but a lot. I mean, it's all going for edible stuff, and I don't know a ton about it, but we're going to give it a shot.
So, where will it go when it comes out of your fields?
So the contract it states that they will pick it up out of the field, so we don't even have to handle it logistically. We just have to harvest it.
So the reality is, you just said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. What's the definition of I'm doing something I have no idea where the hell this crop is going? Is there a definition for that?
Maybe so. Maybe it's crazy.
Maybe crazy. So, all right, who came to you with this contract? Did you seek it out, or did somebody approach you?
Somewhat both. Those guys, ever since we planted it years ago, they kind of come and go, and reach out time to time. And I'm gonna be honest, when the economy was good, I really didn't weigh it out that much. And as things got tighter, it makes your mind expand and be a little more open-minded about something like this. And if it's something that works, maybe it's something we stick with.
I'd agree with you. You probably will. So how's the contract work? So the person listening to this that says, you know what, I've heard about some of these deals, and like in my part of the world, there's been white corn, there's been non-GMO white corn. I just talked about that in Texas. I was down there in Kentucky. I was there for a speaking engagement. I'm told that it's either Maker's Mark or Woodford Reserve. One of the big bourbon companies will give you a contract, but it's usually through a broker. And it's got to be white corn, and it's got to be non-GMO white corn. There's a couple of other things. I don't think they specify organic, but I think that it's got certain parameters to the contract. So I know that there's specialty contracts that popcorn. I'm Indiana's number 2 popcorn state, so I know some guys that have grown popcorn. How does the contract work? They came to you, you came to them, however it came together, and you're going to put in 1,500 acres. There's a boatload of sesame. Tell me about the contract.
So it was a simple contract, but it's an acre contract. So we don't have to, and act of God clause. So we don't have to agree to any production. I don't even know if we can make a crop, to be honest, but we're going to try. So it's strictly an acre contract, and there was a price. I think we're right around 45 cents a pound.
Okay, so the point is, and explain this, an acre contract, because the person says, what's he talking about? Sometimes a contract says, we'll take this many units, bushels, pounds, gallons, whatever. And if you have a banner year, you might be sitting with a bunch of stuff that they didn't agree to take. And you're like, well, what do I do with this? But yours is acres, period.
Strictly acres. And so we buy the seed from the company we're selling it to, because they have their own seed lines. They're kind of start to finish. We buy the seed from them. We contract the acres through them. They come to pick it up, and they pay us for what they pick up. It's a pretty simple contract. and there is an act of God clause. You know, like last year, as much rain as we had, we couldn't get our wheat harvested. There's no way we could have got it planted. It would have been literally impossible. And if that happens, he said it's just an act of God, and we'll move on. We won't plant any, move on. But we're I hope it dries out a little bit here where we can get some planted.
Yeah. So when will the planting? We're recording this, by the way, on May 8th. When will the planting happen?
So suspect we'll be harvesting probably 2 weeks, give or take. So, maybe 3 weeks we'll be planting it, I would get, just to guess.
Okay. So around Memorial Day is a good time.
Yep.
You think it's going to go in the ground, and then it gets harvested.
So I don't know. I would guess somewhere in that into September range, maybe early October.
Does part of the contract say you'll harvest this when we tell you to? Because they can only process so much at a time. I know that my tomato friends here in Red Gold Country, they have a contract. They're allowed to bring 4 semi loads a day during this time frame because the processing plant can only handle so much. And so, that's part of your deal?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a limit on logistics. I think they have a storage facility, maybe in Oklahoma, where they process, and I think they have storage there. So I don't think storage or logistics is an issue, from what I understand.
As part of the other contract, did they provide the seed, or you had to pay for the seed?
I have to pay for the seed, but I purchased it from them.
Yes. And then they agree to buy every pound of sesame that comes off of that acre, 1,500 acres in this case. And if you have a banner harvest or if you have a little harvest, no penalty to you. You just get paid.
That's
what
correct.
about on an insurance basis? Could you lose money?
No, no. So, I guess the way I'm looking at it, the only thing I have at risk is seed. I guess you could throw planting cost in there. There will be a little planting cost. Herbicide, we're going to either have to do tillage or keep that wheat ground clean after we harvest anyway. So I'd call the herbicide a wash. I don't particularly think we'll be out a ton of money. Maybe a little more than not having a crop, but not much. So really,
Right, so you're out the farming expense. What about the acre? They're not giving you cash rent for the acre. You're just, so if you don't get if some act of God does happen and you get no crop off of that, you're out those acres.
Well, but I already have the wheat on it. So I'm going to this thing like I don't have anything to lose.
You're looking at it because it's double crop. It's found
right.
money.
That's right.
But you could have put soybeans. Look at my friends like all the Southern boys, Chad and all them. They put beans into their wheat ground.
No, sir. They won't work here. We get it way too hot. But a bunch of guys around here have tried it. I've tried it. It just, we can't seem to make it work. It gets too hot.
Okay, so the point is that wheat ground was going to get harvested at late May, and then it was going to sit idle and hopefully gain some moisture and going into fall, and now you're getting a bonus crop out of it.
Yeah, that ground would sit idle until, not idle, but it would sit there until February or March. So why not see if we can, squeeze a little bit out of it? To me, the goal is all about making my wheat a little more profitable. I like to grow wheat. It's a great rotation, works good, or most of the time it works good. It just isn't profitable enough. And how can we squeeze a little more out of it?
God, I want to hear about the agronomics and then also the economics and some of the other factors like the labor and the timing on that. Before I do, I want to talk to you about our friends at Superior Grain. As your farm operation grows, so do the challenges. Superior Grain Equipment's grain storage systems are built to make your job easier and help your grain reach its full potential. From gentle mix flow dryers to durable storage, get the flexibility to market your grain on your time. Visit the experts from Superior Grain Equipment at this year's Farm Progress Show. It'll be this August in Decatur, Illinois, or you can visit them online anytime at superiorbenz.com. Superiorbenz.com. Go check it out. All right, from the agronomics then, I don't know. Sesame is an oil seed?
Yes.
And then it's going into wheat ground, so it's not a grass, so it's not going to be depletive of nitrogen the way maybe like a corn or a wheat would be. What are the agronomics of it?
So the guys tell me Do not fertilize it at all. Just leave it out there and do not fertilize. It's not a legume, but they tell me not to fertilize it. It'll scavenge and get plenty of what it needs. I don't know. I'm usually pretty heavy on fertilizer, so I don't know. That part kind of makes me a little nervous, but they just swear up and down, do not fertilize it. You won't see an increase on yield.
And they are the people that you sign a contract with. The people
That's
that actually
correct.
want you, and they don't have their vested interest is they need the sesame seeds. So sure to God, they're giving you good advice.
That's right. That's right. And Sesico is the name of the company if you wanted to look it up.
Name of the company?
Yeah, Sesico.
Sesco, like
Yeah,
like sesame, a co.
that's correct.
Perfect. All right. So what I need to know is when you do this agronomically, do they send out an actual person that you think agronomically knows what they're talking about? I mean, did a used car salesman with a bad toupee hop out of a 73 Nova and have you sign this contract? Or is it somebody that actually showed up in a truck, had dirty boots, and says, I'm the field man, and I can tell you all about my contracts that I've signed up with other farmers? Did you actually talk to someone that knows what the hell they're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. So his name is Garrett, and he actually, when he's not doing the sesame stuff, he actually helps a friend of mine on his farm. So he's real in tune with farm and how everything works and what we're up against. And agronomically seems really intelligent. No, I feel real good about that.
All right, sesame seeds. Anybody that's eating a hamburger at McDonald's knows it's just a little teeny little seed, and that you're planting those exact seeds, which presumably are treated and obviously genetically enhanced and whatever. You're planting those. They almost could blow away in the wind. I mean,
That's right.
this thing's going to be hard to plant. This is not as big as a kernel of corn or a soybean or even wheat. So tell me about the planting. Take me through the farming aspect of it.
Yeah, so the seeds are tiny. If you throw a bag of the seed, a 50 or 40 pound, whatever they are, bag, if you throw it down on the ground or on the
A
back,
40 pound, hey, Todd, a 40-pound bag of sesame seeds could be the size of a truck bed. I mean, they don't weigh anything, do they?
yeah, I don't remember the bushel weight. They're heavier than you think, but if you throw that bag down, seeds will squirt out the seams of that bag. That's how tiny they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's some seals we got to put on the meters of our planters. There's some little things we have to do. I always hear you got to put a little duct tape on areas on even on a new combine. Look, the tiniest little spots can leak, and so that part will be a little bit of a challenge, I'm sure.
You plant these on 30s, 15s, 7.5s drill. What are you doing?
Great question. They recommended 30s. I'm actually going to plant it on 38s, like my cotton. I plant my corn on 30s, my cotton on 38s. There's a little trick, and they swear that this trick works. They say to run water in furrow, like 10 gallons of water per acre in furrow,
Okay.
and you'll get a better stand
Okay.
because the seeds are so tiny and they need to imbibe a little bit of water. They swear that it works. So my thoughts on 38s will concentrate that water a little bit better versus a 30.
Okay. So you're going to be stopping for fill ups on your planter a little bit more rapidly because you're having to put water in.
Water, that's correct, but it'll be easy.
Okay. And then during the season, you're not supposed to fertilize it. During the season, you're not cultivating, right? What are you
Nope.
doing? What are you about weed? You're do a herbicide pass.
Yeah, and the herbicides are pretty limited, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Grasses will be easy to clean up because it is a broadleaf, but broadleaf weeds will be a challenge. We're probably going to have a lot to learn there, but uh, I guess we'll see as we go through it.
Okay. And then, yes, you're going to make a sprayer pass. Is fungus an issue?
No,
Okay, so no fungicide. So actually, you're not going to have a lot of money invested in this. But then, like I said, you run the risk of not making a lot of money on it either. All right, harvest. You're using a grain head.
yeah, just a regular platform header, or we run Draper, so it'll be just a Draper header.
All right, and you're going to have all the like you said. This stuff is so little and so fine and so light and all that it could be blowing around. I
Yep.
imagine you got to crank down the settings on the combine like nothing you've ever harvested before.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a different animal for sure, but I don't I I don't think the harvest is that bad. It's mostly just sealing up things so it doesn't leak is the biggest thing.
from a labor and timing standpoint, does this space out anything for you? You normally aren't running planters June 1st or May 28th or whatever that date should be. So
No, it'll be a little bit of a challenge trying to get wheat harvested and that and spraying our cotton at the same time. I'm honestly more worried about harvest while we're during cotton harvest.
mhm.
That'll be a challenge, but I really it all depends on when we get it planted, how hot the summer is, when the stuff matures. There's so many variables still we don't know yet. But yeah, there is some challenges that could be on the horizon trying to get this stuff taken care of.
So I only learned about cotton since I joined XtremeAg, and I mean I spoke to a couple cotton groups over the years. You got to fool a cotton once a week. You got to have the most expensive harvesting machine on your farm. Um, it's a plant, as my friend Matt Miles always says, that likes to die. It looks to die every day. Cotton's a pain in the ass. Have you ever thought about maybe just getting out of cotton and being a sesame farmer? Because it sounds like sesame is almost easy.
Yeah, I don't know. I It's gonna have to prove it to me a little more. I was kind of hoping we could just make it part of our wheat rotation is what I was hoping,
Right.
and rotate everything else and use it to make more out of our wheat dollars, and maybe if it does work, maybe our wheat acres increase is what I'm thinking.
That maybe, and agronomically, it doesn't deplete. There's not going to be like, oh God, you must have had sesame in this field last year because now there's no whatever calcium, phosphorus, nothing. Is there anything? Is it a hog on anything?
I think it's a scavenger. I think it'll be similar to a sunflower. When we planted sunflowers here, we noticed they would scavenge real deep and bring up nutrients. And
Yep.
honestly, we saw yield increases year after sunflowers here.
Mhm.
So I would hope it's somewhat similar, but I really don't know.
What is the expected harvest? I mean, if I said, hey, we're going to do, organic white corn for this specialty contract, I'd say, okay, around here we're at 230 bushel corn normally. So what's the deduct? And they'd say, oh, 30%. So I can run those numbers. I wouldn't have any idea what to expect on something like sesame. If you told me it makes, you know, 20 bushels, it makes 70 bushels. What's the expected yield?
So they go off pounds, and the guy, Garrett, the rep, told me that he's had guys down south that planted it. The main thing is getting a stand, and that's why I mentioned putting water in furrow.
Yep.
So stand is the most critical part. He says if you can get a stand, you're going to make enough crop that you're not going to lose any money. That's what he says. Now he claims if you can just get it up and get it going, you're going to make 300 or 400 pounds. But
300 or 400 pounds per acre?
yep. So if you get two timely summer rains, he said you can get all the way up to 1,000 pounds.
By the way, that's not. I get that's those seeds don't weigh a lot, but it almost doesn't seem like worth firing up the combine for 400 pounds an acre, does it?
I mean, no, but 400, times 45, cents. I mean, we're not definitely not going to be losing.
All
So
right, so those numbers are 400 bucks at 45 cents is 180 bucks. You're gonna, and that's what you think the low side is.
yeah, yep. And that number is probably worth it with the way our wheat is. I'll be
Yeah,
real
well, you bought
honest.
the seed. Do you remember the number? How much your dollars on your
Uh,
seed cost?
20 bucks, lower 20s an
Okay, so
acre.
20. Call it 20 bucks on seed. Herbicide pass, 20 bucks.
I'm going to call that a wash because I'm going to have to do it anyway.
Oh, because you got to make sure your wheat stubble doesn't grow up
Because
and all that.
yeah, our wheat ground's notorious for getting green and weeds because there's usually a lot of moisture left
Yeah.
underneath the wheat straw, and man, we fight our wheat ground all summer long
Okay,
here.
so you're going to call that anyway. So we got 20 bucks on seed. We got the planting. There's another what? Call that 20 bucks.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, you're at 40 bucks. What am I missing? No fungicide,
Harvest,
no
harvest.
fertility, and then harvest. Is it fair to say is running the combine through there? Is it another 25 bucks?
Yeah, 25. I don't know. That's probably 30 bucks. I mean, being realistic,
Now
probably
you're at
30.
$70 plus your time.
Yep.
And so it sounds to me like you're going to be, even if they're throwing another $10 per acre in for miscellaneous, at 400 pounds, you're at $80 of cost and $180 return. So you could make $100 on this.
That's kind of that's the exact number I was looking at to make it worthwhile. And I mean, I've learned a lot of hard lessons in my little short career, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll
What
see what
about
happens.
and there's no guarantee on payments. Do they pay you as the like within 30 days of pickup from the field, or
I
is there
think
anything
so. I think it is 30. It's 30 or 45 days, I believe.
Okay, so you're not going to be sitting there holding their money until 2026 or anything like
I
that.
don't know. I don't think so. They're a real stand-up company, from what I gather.
I'm kind of worried that you don't know as much about the Sesame as maybe you should have going into this. This is a little. It seems a little bit whimmy.
I've done it before. Again, I don't think I have much to lose by trying it. I don't see the downside to it, so why not?
Recommendations for somebody that's on the fence about trying doing a sesame, or I'm sorry, a specialty crop. What's your recommendation?
Man, just be diligent. Run the numbers. If you don't have much to lose, why not try it? Think outside the box. That's what it's going to take to get through this downturn. Think outside the box. Do something different.
You didn't exactly fester on this. Our friend Matt would have spent a lot more time festering on this. You just kind of said, "All right, looks to me like my cost on it's going to be about 70 or 80 bucks an acre. What the hell am I out?" That's kind of you looked at it.
Yeah. Again, that wheat ground just sits there. There's usually a bunch of moisture under it. Let's try to use it. See what we can get out of it. I mean, why not?
Well, there's a bunch of people are saying it's easier for him to say, "I don't have any ground that just sits there."
Yeah. Well, this area, nobody ever double crops anything. They usually get in there and get a bunch of tillage, and it could throw our tillage behind a little bit. So that may be one of the biggest threats of it, I'll say. But I'm really not too worried about that.
Maybe this will force you to stop tilling so much, which would make me happy as a soils guy. Did you ever think about that?
I'm a soils guy, but if you can come down here and show me how to no-till, I'm all ears. I've tried everything.
I'm going to get down there. I'm going to get down there one of these days. All right. So the other thought on this is the person that says, "Okay, this doesn't apply to me because I'm in South Dakota and there's no double cropping opportunity and all that." I think you still got to consider taking some of your acres and doing experimentation on a specialty crop because, again, if we're going to be in depressed economics on the staple commodities, what else you going to do?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, again, I've been through a couple of downturns, and it seems like thinking outside the box is what kind of got us through it without being too beat up. So I don't know, but maybe this is a pipe dream, but I don't know. I'm gonna do my best to raise a good crop.
If this, and I'll check in with you mid-season. If this works, do you expand it? Do you figure out a way to put in more wheat acres to then follow it with sesame in 2026?
I think so. It'll keep us from being so heavily dependent on corn. We do overall we do pretty good with corn here. I mean, without a doubt, it's our most consistent crop dollar wise. So, I mean, it'd be great to be able to put a little more wheat rotation in and know that we can be a little more profitable without having to worry about that board price. That wheat board is just terrible.
Well, the thing about corn, people from the corn belt really think that Texans should have never tried to grow corn anyhow. You're supposed to do cotton and cows. Did anybody not tell you that? Cows, cotton. Cows, cotton. That's what happens in Texas. You're supposed to just leave the corn to us.
Yeah, just get on X. Everybody's hard on us Texas corn farmers, no doubt.
All right. Is there anything else I need to know about a specialty crop thing? What have you done before besides sesame? Did you do anything else that flopped?
No, I mean, we raised sunflowers for several years. I don't know if you'll call that specialty
That's
or
not
not.
on a contract, is it? Because you're close enough to Kansas where you could just put it on a train or truck or whatever, right? There wasn't a contract on it, was it?
No, there was. And it was actually acre contracts when we did it. That's the only way I would do it because that Kansas is still pretty far, and I wouldn't dare do it without a contract here.
Okay.
One other thing about the sesame we didn't mention, an alternative use for it, and I kind of have this in the back of my head. I'm not an outfitter, and I don't ever plan to be, but the dove love it more than anything else.
Ooh, you're getting my juices flowing there
Yeah.
because my favorite kind of shooting is dove shooting. You don't have to wake up early and it's not
Yep.
cold. And I'd like
Yep.
those two things. I'm already starting to swing my 20 gauge right there just thinking about it.
Yep.
You do that while they're in the field or you do it after harvest?
Probably be after harvest, but I mean, it depends on when harvest is. I don't think it'll matter. we usually get a pretty big flush of doves, especially if you have something like that. They used to love sunflowers, but I'm pretty certain they like sesame more than sunflowers.
Yeah, and that starts sometime in September, even October.
Yeah.
You get all the northern doves coming down. We start getting those frosty nights up here.
That's right. That's
All right. You just figured out a way to maybe you might boost your income some more there. Maybe I come down and pay you to shoot doves.
You can just come shoot. Like I said, I don't know about the whole outfitting thing. I don't know.
I don't want you to go around going broke on my watch. His name is Texas Todd Kimbrell. He's doing the Sesame thing. We're talking about how to succeed in a specialty crop. I think the advice I got right there was, what do you got to lose? Minimize your cost and look at it in terms of, okay, if it's a minimal amount of expense and you can figure out a way to at least get back to break even, and especially if you can use bonus acres, as Todd's doing, on acres that weren't going to be doing anything during the off season anyhow, even if you had to use some of your prime season acres, but you should start experimenting now. And I think that's the big lessons right there. Oh, and I think the other one, if you can get an acre contract versus an actual quantity contract, because I've heard about guys when they're under on quantity, they've got to go and buy it from somebody else to obligate the contract, and then all of a sudden they're over a barrel.
Yeah, and the act of God clause is very important on any specialty crop, in my opinion, because especially here, as extreme as we are,
yeah.
I mean, there's a chance we plant it, we don't ever see it. So, I mean, I'm not too naive to believe that we're just going to make a big crop, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there, is that the act of God and like I said, acres versus quantity, because I've seen that on both regards, where a person has a really great season and they're over and they're working like hell to try and sell their overage. And then the other one is they're short and they have to go and buy the stuff from some other supplier somewhere, and hopefully it's a friend connection, and then they got to obligate the contract. So those can be tougher deals. His name is Texas Todd Kimbrell. I'm Damian Mason. Here's the main thing. We got all kinds of videos just like this on the Cutting the Curve podcast, and you can listen to it as an audio also. You can find us on wherever you get your platform, whatever platform you get your podcast from. Also, go and check out our YouTube channel. XtremeAg.farm is our website, but you can go to find all of our stuff on YouTube. We're putting more and more stuff there. And if you like this, check out The Granary. It's a show that's shot right here at my farm in Indiana, at my on-farm hangout room with the guys from XtremeAg. We cover everything about the business of agriculture, the personal, the professional, and we make it a lot of fun. So go and check that out as well. Till next time, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.com for more great content. Cutting the Curve is powered by Nature's BioK. Check out natures.com to learn more about how BioK can improve your farm's ROI.